It's Monday, and I have a feeling we're going to get a call from the president today. I think President Trump needs to call and say, Sherry, you're doing a good job of pumping me up because you love me, and I do. And last night I watched something that David Letterman interviewed my president when he was 41 years old, and they were just getting along fabulously, and they were just talking and chit-chatting and just really having a great time. And David Letterman was nice to him, and then he became our president, and then he did amazing things for our country. And then some of the dummies decided to fall to the wayside, and they started giving him a hard time, and they started being really mean to him. And I'm like, what is wrong with y'all? Do you not realize what he brought us from and how hard he is trying to get us back to where we need to be and to greater levels? Did you look at the stock market last week? Maybe we should pay attention. Do you know that he's probably the only sitting president who ever sat in the White House and read the Bible to the whole world? To the whole world. He just chose a Bible verse and read to the whole world. That's what this presidency is about. That's what this country should be about. And I hope as the election comes about, right now it's early voting, I'm hoping that if you've ever leaned that wrong way, you are looking clearly and you're coming back and saying, maybe Sherry's right. Maybe we should be conservative. Maybe we should do something. Now this is America at its best. This is the Pickens High Dragon baseball team. They have done something that nobody has ever done. They are going to be hosting the Elite Eight beginning this Wednesday in Pickens County, Georgia. Let me tell you about Pickens County, Georgia. It was just a little tiny piece of nothing, and then all of a sudden progress and growth came, and it is an amazing growing city, and it is growing well. And so we want you to get out and support our Pickens Dragons. The ball game is going to be Wednesday. They're going to have 2 games beginning at 5 p.m. Please show up at the high school, and please show these people that are going to be visiting from way far away that we have a great community. Wear your good clothes. Don't come out there with a beer in your hand. Don't come out there doing anything crazy. Come dress up, and show out for these kids. We would love to see the stands packed. We would love to see everybody supporting the PHS Dragons. Go Dragons. All right, today we're going to share something that's very special to my heart. It's a little bitty girl. Everybody knows that Xana Jordan, you saw her the day she was born. You saw her every day of her life. She's about to be 4. Well, I realized when she came to visit me, it was like a pre-Mother's Day visit. I realized that at 4, kids need to be outside. They need to be playing. They need to be having a good time. They don't need to be sitting in the house and you going, don't touch that. Don't get your handprints on that. Don't do that. So this is what you do with your kids. You get your dog, you get your kid, and you get outside. Welcome spring. Welcome the flowers. Welcome having fun in your yard with your kid. Get out and play with the kids. I made this huge mistake of having her at the office for about 30 minutes, and it was miserable for her, miserable for me, because I was like, no, Xana, don't touch that. No, Xana, don't touch that. And I said, this is crazy. This kid is an outdoor, barefooted, loves to run, loves to play. So I just said, let's go to Nanny's house, and that changed the tone. And we had a very great afternoon. But get your kids outside on these beautiful spring days. Calvin Farmer Park down in Ball Ground is wide open, free to everybody. It's got the creek, it's got the pond, it has got swing sets, it's got slides, it's got walking trails. Take your furry friends with you and get out and go to one of the parks that serves our communities. Now this is one of our crew, and that tree, I thought he was in California. That tree is in Gilmer County, Georgia. Now that is just absolutely crazy. But that is on a hiking trail here in Gilmer County, and that almost looks like we have created that tree to be that big. No, that tree is really, I don't know how big the circumference of it is. Wyatt, do you know how big that circumference is? We need to hike back up there and measure it, because that's just crazy. That's a big tree. I don't know what kind of tree is it. Do you know what kind it is? I'm not sure, but it is massive. If you know,
it's a poplar tree.
It's a poplar tree. Well, that's about the biggest poplar tree I ever saw in my life. I thought I was in the Redwood Forest in California. That is crazy big, and that is on a hiking trail here in Gilmer County. Get out, take your kids out, take your furry friends out, enjoy the beautiful outdoors before it gets hot. Now this, I gotta give a shout out to these people. Such nice, nice folks. They are Greek, they love to cook Italian, they love to cook Greek, and they're so, so sweet. I spent some time with them this week, and actually they're going to be catering an event for me. Really, really sweet folks. And I was teasing them, and I was giving them a little trouble and kind of getting to know them. And I asked him a question. He said, "And we love the Lord." That was the answer I wanted. That was the answer I wanted. So go and support your local businesses. Go and eat locally. Eat locally. This is in Jasper. And that calzone would feed 3 people. When I opened the box, I was like, holy cow. It would feed 3 people. So super good food, super nice folks. So get out and support our local businesses. Local businesses keep us going. Now this, you talk about sweet and precious. Miss Jo Edna Niblett got her diploma at 103 years old. My mom worked at Bell Aircraft the same time this precious lady did, and it was during the war. The women went to work to help build the things that we needed during the war. That was crazy. So she had dropped out of high school, and at 103 years old, Pickens High School made it possible for her to get her diploma. And I think that is the sweetest story that will hit the airwaves this year. That is just absolutely precious, and she supported us during a time of war and didn't get her diploma, but she has it now. So how sweet is that? That's what it's about. It's about giving back. It's about doing for others. It is about being a good person. And this family, this gentleman sitting there is a workaholic. He's worked and worked and worked and worked and worked. He had a horrific accident. He had all kinds of things going on. He lost his leg. He still works all the time. And so to Dorsey and Charlotte, shout out to y'all as we are facing Mother's Day. Dorsey was the family breadwinner. Work, 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 work. He still works. He bounces around on one leg, and he still works all the time. That's the kind of man you want to look up to. That's the kind of person you want to grow up to be. Don't give up when something crazy happens to you. Just be a good person. And there we go again as we support the Pickens High School Dragons. And you know, y'all might recognize one of those kids because his daddy worked here for 100 years. Plant sale. Now this weekend, in honor of Miss Jenny Byers, it is going to be a great plant sale May the 9th, 9 to 3 at the Botanical Gardens in Ball Ground. This is, I believe, the 9th year that they've been doing this, and Miss Jenny was the reason it started, and Miss Jenny is the reason that it needs to keep doing what it's doing. Get out and support and buy yourself a bunch of plants. And if you don't like plants, just go down there and wander around and enjoy the beauty of the scenery. So today we're going to talk about something I love. There's a little church up in McKaysville that invited me to a homecoming, and they had the best food. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. We're also going to remind you that it is the National Day of Prayer Week, Thursday, May the 7th, 5:30 to 6:30 at Lee Newton Park in Jasper. Okay, I'm going to brag on Jasper a little bit. I know there's a lot of controversy going on in Jasper right now. Some are whining about this, some are whining about that. You're whining. Don't whine. Your downtown looks amazing. Y'all have done such a great job. The shopkeepers, the business owners, everybody. Jasper just looks fantastic. So get out and say something nice about it. And I know there's been some controversy, but y'all keep your city under your control. You put on your events. You do what you need to do. You are doing a great, great job. Get it together. Stay together. Work well together, because driving through Jasper, Georgia is truly a delight. All the businesses are full. All the buildings look amazing. Y'all are doing it right. Shout out to everybody in Jasper who is supporting those local businesses. Get out and support your local towns. We serve a lot of towns, including McKaysville. And today I have a gentleman visiting with us who might know a little something about the church. He might know something about the good food they produce. He might know something about doing well for children, and he might have served our country.
Yes, sir.
When
Yes,
when did you serve our country?
So I joined the Marine Corps when I was 19 years old, back in 1977, and I retired in 2002.
And the life you lived as a Marine, was it during a war?
We had Desert Shield, Desert Storm, we had Kosovo, and it was coming right up to the point where we had 9/11, were the years I served.
Did 9/11 totally make you look at America differently and want to protect her even more than ever?
It really did, and it was impactful because at the time I was serving at the recruit training depot at Parris Island, and you could see the patriotism by the number of young people, both men and women, that enlisted in the Marine Corps at that time wanting to serve. It just really renewed my faith in the youth of this country and our hope for the future. To see those kids put themselves through what they had to put themselves through at Parris Island, to go out and fight for the country was just amazing.
You know, I have a friend who he served one time and was out of the military, and then 9/11 hit, and he went from Philadelphia straight to New York. New York, he re-upped and he went to Iraq or Afghanistan, I think. And it was because he saw that we were being tortured from foreign people who hated us. And now we're at a time of war that our president is trying to stop those foreign people before they build nuclear and hit us, and hit England and hit France and hit Spain. He's trying to do something good, and people are giving him a really hard time.
I think it's really important to look past today and see what the impact of these actions could mean for our country. When you're in a tactical situation, it's easy to feel that stress. But then when you step back and look at what freedom really means, it means long-term security for the country. It's not just today's gas prices. It's how are our children going to be protected? And a nuclear Iran would devastate this country. And in the long run, we have to provide that umbrella of security for countries that don't even realize or won't participate in their own defense.
I think that's been one of the most disappointing things for me. Countries that we have helped for years and years and years kind of sat back and said, we're going to let y'all do it. We're going to let y'all fight it. We're not going to help you. We're not going to reach out and give back to those who have given much to us. That's been pretty disappointing.
It is disappointing, but probably not unexpected. I mean, if you look at history, World War I, World War II. So I think sometimes you just have to do it and make that sacrifice, and I admire the president's courage in the face of a lot of pressure to not act. To me, he's probably the only president in my lifetime that could make this type of decision because he's not a politician.
Right. And you know, the thing that I look at him as, he's a grandfather, he's a father, he is somebody's daddy, you know, he's just, and it just blows my mind because he's just a family guy. He's just a family guy. And when I watched the Letterman thing last night, I'd never sat and watched that whole thing, and I realized that people treated him differently before he became our leader. And people who were nice to him, maybe because they thought they could get something from him, maybe because, I don't know why they did, but then all of a sudden they turned on him. And to me, I mean, I've probably cried more about him, worrying about him and praying for him and hoping that people will wake up and understand he's not doing this for his glory. He's not doing this for a paycheck. He's doing this to save America and to also unite the world. It's not about him.
Absolutely. And you'll hear even some Republicans.
Some people aren't Republicans who say they are.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I try to point out to my friends that use that to leverage their own importance, that there really is no right way to do the wrong thing. And I admire the president's courage. and his whole cabinet. And
his cabinet makes me cry. When you look at that group of amazing people, it's like God ordained this.
Yes.
President Trump didn't just come up with this team of people. These people were aligned just perfectly for what we needed today.
And it may be our one last opportunity, at least for this generation, to change the trajectory of this country back to freedom and making freedom the most important factor in how we live our lives. If you give up freedom, you give up your security.
Sure. And we, do you remember how you felt when you saw the planes go into the Twin Towers?
I do.
Do you know how we came together in America then?
Yes.
And now we're split further apart than ever because there has been some vicious, crazy stuff going on, including 3 assassin attempts on our president. There are some evil, evil things going on. And I look at who's creating this and who's doing this, and it's a generation that was kind of forgotten because most of the kids are in their 20s that are doing these crazy things.
Yes. And if you look at the way society is coming apart and how it's a binary choice at this point, there really is no opportunity for compromise. And if you look back to Greek history and Roman history, it's not repeating itself, but it's rhyming in the process that occurred to destroy those great societies. And I'm fearful that if we don't get back to our trust in the Lord and follow God's word, that will happen to this country. And we may not keep the country the way it is, but for sure we have the opportunity to build on what our founders created in our Constitution, as long as we stick to the way it's written.
Well, one of the things that I think the hardest thing I will ever have lived in my lifetime is Charlie Kirk's assassination. I was here for Kennedy's assassination. That was horrific. That was horrible. But Charlie Kirk was so young. And he made such a difference in bringing kids back to church. Every single day you saw them walking into church, where they hadn't done that in years. And they gave it up. When their parents made them go to church, they went, and then they decided, no, we can do without this. They came back to church. We lost a great leader when we lost Charlie Kirk. How do we ever recover from that?
So I think the opportunity that we have from adversity that you described is to live a life on a path that creates disciples for Christ. And the way to do that is, I think, to trust in God's word. And a lot of time we look at faith as a common understanding that there is a God. But in reality, faith is trusting that God has already given us the grace, and that there really isn't the ability to do many things to change that. If you truly believe, your life is you bearing fruit of the goodness that you do for each person in your life. And it's not really doing good things to create that trust, that you have to have the trust before you find that good path. And I think if we can emphasize trust in God's word to our youth, that they'll be on that path.
And wasn't it last year that the Bible sales went up 30%?
That's amazing.
Isn't that the coolest thing ever?
It is.
And it is 30%. That is a bunch.
Yes.
I'm like, that's crazy. And you know what I loved about that? The viewership in movie theaters went way down. Like 10% of Americans now go to a movie theater. We don't support the industry that fights the Bible. And I think that's amazing. I think that's awesome. Because we finally said, why should we support something that is taking down the goodness of the world? And that's often what the movie industry was doing.
Absolutely. And I think day-to-day life is so much more important than you look at the social media and things like that. The actions that you can take to demonstrate through the way you live your life that you trust in the Lord will set an example for those coming after us. And that's kind of what we're trying to do here. Is, every program in a church starts with their pastor. And we have a wonderful pastor, Larry Russell.
I love him.
Yeah, he's amazing. He grew up in that church.
Do you know the story about he and his wife being here not long before she passed?
I know it just vaguely.
It was so crazy because she was just sitting over there watching as he was on the air with me. And then just weeks later, she was gone. And it almost solidifies, here today, gone tomorrow.
Yes.
And I don't think anybody had a clue how soon she would leave here, but the Lord knew, and He was going to call her home. And He had prepared Larry.
And Larry is in his home church. He grew up in that church. He is an amazing guy in that he had a career in business after graduating from West Georgia College, which is what it was called back then. With a degree in business, he got into the chicken business and spent 25 years managing, doing about every position you could do. I'm not sure he was a chicken chucker.
Yeah, but imagine your day without a chicken.
Yeah.
Imagine North Georgia, the chicken industry, and what it has done for us, yeah.
But he heard the Lord's voice and became a Methodist minister. He went to Asbury Seminary and got his master's in divinity. And he is phenomenal. We're really thankful that he's there. And he kind of challenged us. He said, what can we do that will change the lives of children? And he has such a strong belief in that. He and his wife both. If you think about it, adopting 2 children, that's a commitment that is lifelong and really shows that you're willing to sacrifice your personal time, fortune, effort to change the life of a child. And that's Pastor Russell. He did that. His challenge to us was, we may not be able to do one great big thing that changes the world, but he said to us, you can do a lot of little things that changes the life of a child forever. So let's take a look at what we can do there. So the Mission Outreach and Evangelism Committee got together and we decided to create a 501c3, a nonprofit called the North Georgia Children's Relief Foundation. And it's a pretty simple mission. It's protect children. And so it's a secular, meaning non-religious, but it's hosted by our church. And our pastor is our church community liaison. It meets all the requirements of the IRS and allows you to work in parallel to create a mission that changes children's lives. And if you're sitting in church and you're thinking, okay, what do I do next to make this happen? We decided that we wouldn't try to duplicate what's going on in the community, because there are lots of great nonprofits that help children and families and feed people and clothe people and house people. We said, okay, how can we improve what these nonprofits are already doing? And one of the things that we came up with was the Family Disruption Prevention Program. That's a mouthful, okay? So we said, okay, who has first contact with these children in crisis? And we said, okay, first we have the first responders. The fire department, if their house burns down, the sheriff's office, if there's a domestic disturbance, and we said, what can we do there? So we got together with DFACS in Fannin County, and we said, please map out the process for us. And they showed us how the deputy goes out to the house, how they contact 911, how 911 contacts DFACS, how DFACS tells the deputy to call Atlanta for intake, how Atlanta calls back to DFACS in Fannin County to go out and make an assessment. We said, well, every family that happens to, that there's a domestic disturbance with children? And they said, yes. That's the deputy's tied up for hours. The family is sitting there in a stressful situation. And eventually, the children are taken away from that family for at least a temporary amount of time. And so what we decided was we'd get with a motel, and we'd get with DFACS and see if we could create a program where the deputy would call the local DFACS, get confirmation that the situation was safe, and immediately separate the family by sending that family to a local motel. And then there'll be a follow-up. But it doesn't introduce the family into the DFACS process where the family's going to be separated. It quickly defuses the situation, and it allows
a calming period, almost
yes,
a calming period.
a cooling off or
yeah,
calming period is, I believe, what they refer to. So we've been able to do that. We got with Dan Kirby, and he said he's willing to try this for 30 days, and then it went out to 3 months because we didn't think 30 days would be a long enough time. And we got with DFACS, and we created a form where the deputy carries it with him, and he goes to the situation. He still calls DFACS, but instead of going through the entire process, the DFACS does an assessment of the situation and authorizes the deputy to send that family in Fannin County to the Comfort Inn and gives that family a voucher, and the family goes there for 4 days, which allows a cooling off period, as you said, for an assessment to occur and potentially get that family back into that house without going into the full DFACS
and basically taking screaming children from their mother and daddy.
Yes.
Because even in a violent situation, the child wants to be at home. The child wants to be with a parent. No matter how bad the situation is, the child wants to be with their parent.
And that's a wonderful point. This isn't for every situation, because there's going to be times when
there are dangerous, violent situations.
Yes, and that's not what this is for. This is for the deputy sheriff on site to make an assessment, to contact the DFACS via 911 to determine how to best follow up with this particular situation. So we have a community partnership between our foundation, our church, the sheriff's office, the DFACS office, local, and the Comfort Inn, that we can de-escalate this entire situation and keep that family from entering into a process that separates those children from that family immediately.
That's awesome. And it happens. I was sitting here thinking, have you watched the movie about J.D. Vance?
I have not.
Okay, you've got to watch it. Be ready for violence, be ready for horrible language, be ready for any and everything you can ever imagine. But thank God for his grandmother, because not all families have a grandmother who can take over and take a child. So what you've provided is a way to calm down, and if one person has to be removed, and then the basic stable person could spend time with the children at the motel, and then give that other person time to calm down, cool down, and change the environment. Because, you know, nobody has a clue what children really see. And when I watched the J.D. Vance movie, I had to watch it in parts because I couldn't stand all of it at one time, because I know children who had gone through something like that. And it was very, very hard emotional, and it was a very raw movie. So you should watch it. It will make you love what you're doing even more, because you will truly understand children want to be with their parents, even as bad as sometimes their parents are. They want to be there.
Yes. And so that's the sheriff's office portion of this. We're also working with the fire and rescue if a house burns down, the children and the family will go to the Comfort Inn, and Red Cross will kick in at some point. But this is immediate. This is the ability to take a child who's lost everything, put them in an environment with their family where they could continue their life at school. They won't miss that. It'll just provide continuity to lower the stress and anxiety for that family and their children.
Can you imagine? Yeah.
So it's you know, this is really a beta test for a program that we want to expand. Eventually, you know, we'd like to do this in 4 or 5 counties, you know, as we make sure that this works the way we think it's going to work. You know, it's a start for us.
How do you raise funds? How do you do that?
So we're completely nonprofit, obviously. So we haven't had a fundraiser yet. We just started this in January, and you know, so we're looking at opportunities to do fundraising, but we really want to keep everything local. So if we're in Gilmer County, or if we're in Union County, or we're in Fannin County, we really want the local community to support this. But there's so many nonprofits that are doing so much good work that it's really a challenge to kind of create your own lane. And there's a lot of competition, I hate to say that word, in the nonprofit world, and everybody's asked all the time for everything.
Oh yeah.
You know, so we're still working through that.
Did Comfort Inn? I want to give them a shout out if they
they're
gave
amazing.
you help. See, if they gave you help, then you need to support them, and we need to all recommend that they are used when your guests come to town and they need a place to stay. Yeah.
And we're looking at the opportunity to use AI and to help provide continuity of effort in all of the different nonprofits that support children and families. That's kind of our next piece. That's sort of a force multiplier. That's a military term. But by using AI, when you have the ability to, like in Gilmer County, to say, okay, we have a child, this family situation, it can look across all of the different nonprofits and government agencies and say, okay, this is the best streamlined support for this child without having, you know, somebody to go to this church, because we are starting to build our database with the church community, and the pastors surveying, you know, what's out there so we can map this. But we have some technology that's available that can say, okay, you know, for this child to get to school and stay in the home, these are the resources that are necessary and available. And here's a list of who you contact and how you access those. So another agency can, instead of stovepiping, like all the competition for all the nonprofits, it looks across all the different assets that are available. And this is what we're doing next, because we're small.
Well, last week we had these people on, and I wanted to share this with you because they actually do counseling for children who have been in situations like you're rescuing them from. And after the fact, they need help emotionally, because 4 nights in a hotel and then going back to a family who may have violence involved or horror, poverty, there are so many things that they're going back to, but the Appalachian Children's Center talks to them, spends time with them, gets them to open up, and that's something that's hard. That's hard.
Yes, and I think you're pointing out really an important aspect of this, and there's the acute, you know, where there's drama and violence in the house, and that has to be addressed. And then you have chronic, that, you know, it happens one day and then it goes down a month later and a month later and a month later. We need to look at all of that and figure out, and this is where AI is going to help us. We'll say, okay, we have an acute situation, we'll send them to this agency to get stabilized, and then since it's long-term, to avoid a chronic issue, they can go to these resources using AI, because it will take all the features of that family, that child, and look at what's available across the entire region. County, we're starting with county, our beta test is with the county, but across the entire region, and be able to let the family pick and choose how to best support that child. Because a lot of times in these crisis situations, the grandparents will step in, and that changes the whole level of support that they can receive. And by having AI do this, it will facilitate that grandparent from not starting at zero. If you just are handed a problem and say, okay, figure it out, you're going to make one phone call, and then you're going to talk for an hour, and then you're going to make another phone call. And you could go around in circles for days. But what we're trying to do is give you a menu that says, okay, for this time frame, this first 24 hours, these are the resources, this is who you contact, and a little bit of a narrative on how you do that. And then the next 48 hours, these are the resources that come into play, and how it can support you all the way to graduating from high school. It's not going to just say, okay, call a really wonderful nonprofit that ends up in the same situation where the family is, looking for, okay, what's the next step, for this child, because there just aren't enough resources, and so they have to be optimized, and sometimes it's not what you provide, but when you provide it. If you can head off an issue before it gets to be too extreme, you have a better opportunity for that child to be successful.
Yeah. And it's weird that we're talking about this today, because I shared with somebody about 18 years ago, I started writing a book. And it started with one sentence from me as a 5-year-old child. And it was one sentence, and that sentence, I kept going back to that memory. And as a child, I have two basic, really definite memories. And one, I was 2 years old, and one, I was 4.5 years old. And those are the two basic memories that forever are in my mind. And then I think about one as I left home, and my mother said, "It's your choice, I'm going to miss you." That was it. And I said, children don't forget the bad stuff. They have a hard time sometimes getting that out of their mind and getting it out of their memory. And I remember one of the hardest things for me, we went to East Lake Elementary School, and a little girl in my school did not have a coat to wear, and I gave her my coat. And I always thought, no child should show up without a coat to wear. And Mother said, "Why did you give her your coat?" And I said, "She didn't have one." And so every single day, another child is affected by how they can help another child, because children see differently than adults do. We look as we go out and we say, oh, and children want to reach out. Children reach out better than adults do. And maybe it's time that we taught the adults to teach your children to reach out and be better people. Because I know Mama was that way, and I would watch her, and she was always doing something for somebody else. And it's a lesson that we teach very early, is to reach out and help somebody. And it's so great that all these people in our communities are reaching out to help. But what if you could get them all together and everybody do what they do best, and no child is left behind? Wouldn't that be amazing?
It would. It really would.
That would be just awesome. And if AI can do it, I'm terrified of AI, although my son says, "Mom, you got to get with it." I'm like, it terrifies me, but I know it's going to do some good. I know it is.
I think it really will. Ultimately, it comes down to people, though, and having people that care enough to make that exception in their life for a child is just remarkable. And there's still plenty of people out there like that. And they're in every church and they're in every walk of life.
And I'm mad at myself because I had a bag of something I was going to bring you. I have a bag of about 30 pair of little girls' shoes that were my baby Xana's, that she has outgrown all these shoes because they grow too fast, way too fast, and they never wear them out. And I was going to bring them to you and say, okay, here you go. Find somebody, defect, somebody who can use all these shoes for kids. One of the hardest things for children, and I lived it, is to show up in school and you don't look like everybody else. Your hair isn't fixed. Your mom didn't fix your hair. We went through a period in North Georgia where the parents were so hooked on drugs and so many problems that the children were left in a crack, just basically left in a crack. They had to get up themselves and get on a school bus. They had to find clothes to wear in a dirty pile of clothes piled over on the floor. I lived it and I helped children get out of this. So if the thrift stores can help before school, I think it would be a great time this summer to organize thrift stores to hitting that mark. If you see children that need clothes, work with a thrift store and say, can you please clothe these children for the school year? Because showing up looking disheveled and you know, it's the hardest thing ever because then people judge you. And we know children, there's some bullying going on, there's so many things. But it's going to take more than a village to straighten this problem out. It's going to take about 14 villages. It's going to take the Marines calling the Army, calling the Air Force, and calling the Coast Guard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but we can all do it together. We can absolutely do it together.
That's an excellent point. And, you know, we're a small church, but by creating a mechanism or tool that other churches can use or other agencies can use, or just to think differently about how to solve the issues, it really does focus everybody's effort to make the most significant use of those resources as possible.
And whatever your resources are.
Yes.
Because we all have resources of some kind. So, well, we're going to do something in honor of your church. We're going to do a song. Trace, can we do supper time? Because I remember a really good meal at your church. And I was invited, I think Alice Griggs invited me maybe 4 years ago. It was before I was doing this 7-day-a-week gig I'm doing now. But it was so neat to be at your church as they celebrated. I think it was an anniversary or a birthday of the church. And all the ladies got together and brought their best food. And so in honor of your church and great food, we're going to do a song that I think y'all are going to love. And it's going to show you some of Sherry's favorite recipes. Here we go.
Many years ago, in days of childhood, I used to play till the evening sun would come. Then wandering down an old familiar pathway, I could hear my mother call at set of sun. Come home, it's supper time. The shadows lengthen fast. Come home, it's supper time. We're going home at last. Some of my fondest memories of my childhood were woven around supper time. And Mom, I remember how you used to call from the steps of our old home place. You'd always say, come home, son, it's supper time. What I'd give to hear that just one more time. But you know, time has woven a realization of truth that's even more thrilling. And that's when we hear that call from the portals of glory to come home for supper time. When all of God's children gather around the table with the Lord Himself, we celebrate the greatest supper time of all. Come home, it's supper time. The shadows lengthen fast. Come home, it's supper time. We're going home at last.
Whether you're in the mood for chicken strips, a delicious burger, our classic banana split, or an upside-down thick blizzard treat, we've got you covered. Hot and fresh food every day, every time, and delicious DQ soft serve make the perfect pair at your favorite place. Not fast food, fan food fast. Your Blue Ridge, Ellijay, and Jasper Dairy Queens are your meet, eat, and treat headquarters.
Thank you for choosing DQ. How may I serve you?
If you or your business are looking for local advertising opportunities, we have sponsorships available for new programming coming soon on ETC3. Contact us at 706-697-5591.
See us anytime you can.
Whether you're swimming in the sea, or splashing in the pool, making a masterpiece, or just making memories, writing a great American novel, or writing your term paper that's due tomorrow. Whatever you do in life, Farmers is here to protect it. For all your insurance needs, call Donald Curtis in Blue Ridge.
If you can't read it, Sherry, get your glasses out, folks, and read it. Let's do good together. Let's do good together. And let's do good together in every area of our communities that we serve. There are so many great nonprofits that help children. We need to be a part of fixing the problem. There are so many problems when it comes to children who don't have a new backpack to go to school. There are children who go to school hungry. There are children whose parents maybe didn't come home last night because they were strung out on drugs. There are children who are left alone, and there's no excuse for it. So let's be part of the solving the problem, not the problem. If people want to get involved with you, how do they reach you?
So we have a website. It's kind of a long website. It's ngacrf.org, because being a nonprofit, we have a .org at the end of it. But also through the McKaysville Methodist Church. This is a mission for us, even though we're technically a secular nonprofit. We are looking for other churches to get involved with us. And anybody in the community that wants to be part of this. We're looking for additional board members. We started January 11th of this year, so we're fairly new. It's a good opportunity to start on the ground floor and help us organize and really make a difference.
Now, your family has been in the area since 1832?
Yes, ma'am.
1832.
We came all the way from Rabun County.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just across the north. Yeah. But in 1832, and we settled out on Ritchie Creek. Obviously, my last name is Ritchie, and it was a little town or a little post office back then called Oasis. Was the name of the post office. And my grandfather, my grandfather was born there, but my great grandfather was the postmaster. And he was a Baptist preacher, and he founded Colwell Baptist Church, which is kind of out in the country off of Old Highway.
Is it still there?
It is. It
wow.
is. And I'd say it's one of the...
Does it have an old cemetery?
It does. And he's
I'd love to visit that.
Yes.
Oh, I'd love to visit that.
It's really kind of a unique location out there in that you can only walk so far. So we're related to just about every family and family name. You know, if you had a daughter and they married into another family, you know, they became part of that family, but they're still part of your family.
Oh, yeah.
And you can, sometimes more than once.
What are some of the names in the cemetery that people would be familiar with?
So Patterson is there. That's a fairly significant name. Gosh, you know, when you ask me, Foster is there.
Obviously
Ritchie, yes. Trying to think of all the different roads that are up there because we named a road after each of them. But the Mathis is there. In fact, Claude Mathis is.
I know him.
Is my cousin and GW. And my grandfather was the youngest, and he had 5 sisters. So, you know, we're related by marriage to a lot of other families around that area. It's a neat, kind of a neat and interesting way to grow up. But there was in our family a lot of pastors, and then a lot of our family worked for the Tennessee Copper Company. And in fact, my dad grew up on Smelter Hill, and he was the valedictorian of the Copper Hill High School class of 1948.
Wow.
Yeah, and he went to the Naval Academy from there.
Wow.
I mean, back then that was kind of unheard of.
Yeah.
But he had 3 brothers, and one of them, I don't know if you remember the IBM Selectric, that little ball that came up.
Oh yeah, I typed with it many days.
Well,
yeah.
My uncle designed that for IBM.
Wow.
Yeah. So here's this little community that produced some really
that is crazy.
outstanding folks, not just in our family, but in a lot of other families
That's so
don't
funny
realize.
because the other day we were talking about the world would be better if we went back to an IBM Selectric and not a computer, and we were having a big conversation about that because there was no tracing anything. There was no, and then we thought about it and said, yeah, there is. You could go back to that little ball and see what it created. So yeah, but IBM Selectric, that is amazing.
Yes,
that is so cool.
And so our family is all over here. You know, if you've been around here that long, and it goes back and forth to Rabun County too. The school out there was started by one of our relatives. I guess we had to go somewhere and start some schools, but the challenge that we have is that we have a lot of families still in need, and we have some wonderful folks in the school system here. I mean, you know, from adversity comes opportunity, and I think our school systems in Union County and in Gilmer County, and the one I know best is Fannin County. They have just been able to create an example of what a community can do in education to provide the best opportunity to some of those families like we were talking about that had basically nothing, and make them competitive, not just in Georgia, not just in the country, but in the world. And that's a tribute, I think, to the leadership there. And we're just thankful to be back in this area. You know, it took us a while to get back. When you have a father that's a career military, and then you end up doing a career in the military, but it makes you appreciate when you come visit and see what's going on.
Yeah.
And then when you come back, it's just a blessing.
Yeah,
It really is.
Yeah, and to serve the communities that we serve. We used to say from Ball Ground to Turtletown, but now we're in Dawson County, Lumpkin County, we're in Waleska. We've grown so much with ETC, and one of the great things is that the message at ETC has not changed. It is about neighbors serving neighbors. It's about communities opening their door to new communities, and it's about churches sharing the love of Christ. And that's what, do you want to invite people to your church?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, go ahead and do it.
Well, McKaysville Methodist Church, it's a scrappy little church right on the highway there. And we have services at 9 a.m. and Bible study at 10, and then another service at 11. And Pastor Larry Russell is just phenomenal. He is able to convey the Word of God so well, being a local himself and knowing that community as well as he does. He's also related to a lot of people in that area. But it's just such a blessing to not have the pressure of the world on your shoulders when you go in and you realize that you know, the Lord has you in his hands and is going to take care of you. It's that faith that stabilizes everything in life and everything after life.
That's it. That's it. And we'll talk about that next time you come to visit, but I want to remind y'all about this. And don't forget, y'all, Mother's Day is coming up. If you do one thing for your mama, why don't you go to church with mama? Pick up the phone and call mama and say, hey, mama, don't have a home church right now. Let's go visit a church. Find a great church in our community, and this would be a great church to visit. So take your mama to church, spend some time with her, and do something that you can never get too much of. Time is something we don't have enough of. So it is time for us to get out of here now. We're going to leave you where rivers, mountains, and good friends meet. Be a good friend today to somebody. Do something for somebody else. It'll bless you over and over and over. I'll see you again tomorrow when we will be visited by our elected official, Johnny Chastain, will be with us tomorrow. So visit with us again, and don't forget, check us out on YouTube, share it with your friends, share it with your neighbors, and share the good news. Jesus is still on the throne. He is. I'll see y'all again soon. Bye.